Um, yeah, so last couple weeks have been really good to us, particularly last week. Just the way that we're playing and executing at a really high level right now. We obviously haven't been playing the highest quality opponents, but I do feel like we're playing a really high quality level of basketball and doing what we're supposed to do against who we're playing. Um, Breaking all kinds of records and that sort of thing. I'm just really proud of our kids, and we're playing a really fun brand of basketball, and our kids are having a lot of fun doing it. So it's been a great start to kind of kick us off into what is about to come for Big 12. And then obviously just big week for me personally, and for our program, just me with the baby coming. I've been trying to get everything prepared and ready to go for not just myself, but for everyone here that I'm kind of stepping away from. But I think it's a great opportunity for our coaches and our players to really just step up and be leaders in my absence. And I have no doubt that they'll do that. They've already done that already. But just a good chance here in the next couple weeks to really just continue to move our program in the right direction.
I imagine the plan is somewhat subject to change, but do you kind of have an idea of, okay, I'd like to be back by X date or whatever?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep an open mind. I think initially, it changes all the time, right? So initially I was thinking maybe it'd take a little more time, and then being out from that Florida tournament just really taught me a lot about myself. And while I might change my mind again, I think I just learned that I'm wired to get a lot of my self-worth from work. I love what I do, and I love being a part of a team. And again, I know things are going to change when a baby enters the picture, but I feel like I'm my best self when I'm able to be more involved and a part of a team. So my goal is to hopefully be back, maybe not standing on the sidelines, but just at least there for Iowa State to open up Big 12. Who knows? That could change. Hopefully everything goes smoothly and everyone is safe and healthy on our side. But that would be my ultimate kind of motivation right now.
Can you put us in your mindset when you're watching the tournament that you weren't able to be at?
Not without saying cuss words, really. No, I mean, it was just painful. And, anyone who watched knows there was a delay. It was just, it was hard for anyone to watch, but especially for me, just not being able to feel like I could really have a grasp on what was going on or how I could help, communicating to coaches at halftime or before the game or whatever. That was really, really hard. So it wasn't good for my my mental well-being, but I'm learning right now just how to surrender. And I think I don't know what I don't know, but I hear that's a lot of being a parent, is just having to give up that control. So it's kind of preparing me, I think, for what I'm about to experience also.
What are kind of like the emotions going? Are you more excited? Are you more nervous? Kind of just what's that side of it like?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Really just, honestly, just gratitude. I just feel so overwhelmed with, it was so hard for me to be gone the Florida trip, but that was really eye-opening to how much I love what I do, how much I love this particular team. There's probably teams in the past where I wouldn't have been as upset about being away from them, but I love this group of girls. I adore them. And so I've been emotional about how fortunate I am to be so frustrated in being away from a group of people, because it means that I love them that much and I enjoy being around them that much, and fighting for them and with them. And then obviously it's for a really, really good reason, right? So just being emotional about how grateful I am to finally be able to be a mom. My husband and I have been trying for a long time, years. And so for this to finally be here for us is just a huge blessing, and I feel incredibly grateful to be in the position to have to miss, right? So overall, I would just say gratitude and just an overwhelming feeling of joy and thankfulness, but also a little bit of, fear. And now that it's getting closer, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, like this is happening. But we're thrilled.
Whenever you're watching those games in Florida, are you just like sending texts to the coaches that they'll read later? Or are you taking note? What was kind of your...
just taking notes. And I wanted to tread lightly on that, because especially with a delay in the feed, you don't really know. And so, I took notes and communicated, like I said, before the game and at halftime and after. But I trust them, and I can give my input, but I know from being a head coach, you don't know what you don't know. I mean, I didn't want to be a fan, and it's really easy to sit back and say, why didn't we do this or why didn't we do that? But especially with me not having that live, timeline, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't giving bad advice or seeing something different than what it actually was.
How valuable do you think that is for your players and your coaching staff, that they had that little kind of trial run in Florida, and then you could come back and work out some of the details, and now really a longer
Yeah, I as much as I hated it, I do think it was really good for everyone in the long run, to kind of just experience what it was going to be like and where we could be better to help our team, or what we would do different. We met as a staff when we got back and just talked about, okay, when we're in that situation next time, how can we be better? How can we better help our kids? Even with the players, what would you do different? And so I think it was great, because we all learned a lot. And now, with conference play coming up, it's the most important time for us. And I think we'll be that much better having already got that sample size.
Is there something about this team that's surprised you, like a positive that you maybe weren't anticipating, or weren't anticipating this early?
I think just having so many new kids, their connection. I mean, you can see it on the court. You don't set records without having really great chemistry, and the way that they've been able to find each other. I told them, great for the scoring records, but you don't get the scoring record without the assist record. And that's what makes this group so special, is they're so selfless. They're so bought into, we're hungry to get back to the tournament. They either stayed here or came here to get to the tournament. And you can just see that in how they attack and approach every day in practice and every game. It's we're on a mission, and you can see that in them. And so I think the surprise has just been, wow, like we have all these, new faces, but man, they're hungry for it. They're bought in, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to help us get there.
Y'all are receiving some votes in the polls now. Just is that validating, and does that show that y'all are making progress towards that goal of being a tournament team and all the other stuff you want to accomplish?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we talk daily about it's a marathon, and you got to continue to show up and give your best every single day. And great that we're receiving those votes, but we still have so much work to do and so much to prove to ourselves. So, but of course it's affirming. I mean, how could it not be? Especially coming off of a very average year last year, in my eyes. We've talked about not just wanting to win, but wanting to make a statement in those wins. And I feel like we've done that thus far. And so I'm preaching to our team, we want to keep our foot on the gas no matter what the score is, or what our win streak is, or whatever. And so to see other people kind of recognizing that is, of course, a great feeling for us.
Staley obviously had a great year last year, but is she jumping levels lately? Going 7 for 7, no matter who you're playing, is not very easy.
Right. No, I mean, I don't care who you're playing against. I told our team there are people who could go out there and just not have any defense, and they can't do what we're doing right now. I mean, you could play against air and not be able to put up the numbers and be as efficient as we are. So I think we've definitely seen Staley grow in her confidence level to shoot. Wasn't really I don't want to say it was a weakness of hers last year, but it wasn't necessarily a strength in her mind or other people's minds. And so it's been neat to watch her, have success there and continue to get better. We talked a lot in the off season about not having that sophomore slump, because she did have a great freshman year, but not getting complacent. And I think a lot of her success right now is because of the teammates that she's surrounded by. Last year she had a lot on her shoulders, especially as a freshman, and now she's got great teammates around her that are able to facilitate for her and create for her. And the great thing about Staley is that she'll do that for them as well. And so I think we're seeing the best of Staley right now, but the fun thing about coaching this team is it could be someone else the next game and the next game.
How do you feel your teams handled the fourth quarters, especially in some of these games that y'all been up huge amounts?
I think I think there's this, and I'm watching our men's team go through it right now. Like, I love watching our men's team. Coach Lutz I just love what he's doing. I love how he's doing it. But there's always like this criticism of like, oh, you can't do it for 4 quarters or 2 halves in their case. And it's like, that's just so unrealistic. The game, the game is a game of runs. And so I think our fourth quarters have been fine. Could they be better? Yes. But who's to say? I mean, look what we've done in our first quarters, so I don't really get too caught up in that, to be honest. I don't want to play a perfect 4 quarters yet. That's for March. That's for late February and March. So I think there's definitely areas we can improve, but realistically, you're just not going to play a perfect game.
But I guess what I'm curious is, like, especially the scores being what they are, if they're like, I guess it feels like you could see a bigger letdown with just the scores, but it feels like y'all don't have that issue, I guess.
Gotcha. Yeah, again, that's the standard we want to have. We talk every single time out. We don't care what the scoreboard says. It's 0-0. And for us, the way our game is broken down, we're able to have those timeouts at the 5-minute mark of each quarter. And so I don't even let our kids look at the scoreboard. I mean, I'm sure they do, but that's not an emphasis for us. We actually have our own scoreboards. One is rebounding, and the other one is what we call hype, which is just our positivity, our energy. And you can either have positive energy or negative energy, and we want to keep our energy at the highest level possible, whether you're on the bench or on the court. Those are kind of the measuring sticks for us. So I think, us running away with some of these games the way we have is just a result of being focused on process type things, not necessarily the outcome. But I love it. I mean, I've challenged our kids, you can't get bored. You can't get bored with winning. You can't get bored with doing things right. And that's easier said than done, especially for college kids. So I've been really pleased with that.
You sort of mentioned this with the assists, but is there a part of your team that you think is maybe underappreciated nationally right now? We see all the scoring numbers and stuff like that, but is there something you guys are doing that you're like, man, this is really kind of what's pushing us forward?
Yeah, I don't know that I would say underappreciated or not recognized. I mean, it's easy though when you're breaking records, right? So, in a lot of the lists and the rankings right now, I mean, we're in the top 3. Field goal percentage, we're number 1. I think the best thing we're doing is we're getting the right shots. And we're number 1 yesterday in field goal efficiency, just meaning the types of shots that you're taking. And I think the reason we're so successful is because we're taking the right shots and we're passing up good shots for great shots. And that's something we preach in our program a lot. We have a number system that we call it, and a 9 is the best shot that we can take on the court. We're taking a lot of 9s. So we're passing up 7s and 5s for 9s. So I think that that's something that is really great that we have going for us right now, that our kids understand what a good shot is. And then defensively, I mean, we're doing our job defensively. So I think if anything, that's probably the thing that's overlooked, because we're sitting in a really great spot defensively. Got to continue to do that and get better and build off that. But overall, I mean, I can't say I feel underappreciated or even that I care or know what people are saying. We're just focused on us.
And then Jaden, I think she's got 8 games under her belt now. Just kind of what have you thought of how she's kind of settled into college basketball?
She just gets better and better each game, and you see her confidence and her understanding growing. She's so coachable and hungry to be the best that she can be for herself. She's very highly motivated, but she's also so motivated for this team to do what's needed. And so I think she's growing in her understanding of what that looks like. You know, at this level, you just can't do some things that you did in high school or get away with certain habits. So we're still working on changing some of her habits. But overall, it's her want and her desire to make those changes and to be open to that. She's so fun to coach for that reason. I mean, she's just constantly asking for feedback and wants to watch film, and she's open to the hard feedback, which I think is very mature of her. But she's just going to continue to get better because that's who she is. She wants to be coached and has a growth mindset, and I think she's going to continue to just, you know, shine for us. And Jaden is a player that I think is better in big games, to be honest, because that's just kind of who she's always been. I mean, she, you know, was Kansas Gatorade Player of the Year, and you look at her high school career, I mean, it was the big games that meant a lot where she shined the brightest. So I think we'll continue to see that as we play in bigger games as well.
You talked about early in the year how this year you've really been able to get back to, whether it be personnel or just healthy players, being able to get back to how you want to play, your fast-paced, aggressive defensively style. Kind of what inspired you as a head coach to want to kind of pursue that kind of style where it's really fast-paced? Because now on the men's side, you're seeing a similar thing with Coach Lutz.
Yeah, honestly, it just goes back to my high school days and how I was taught to play the game. So my mom just won her 600th game on Friday, and that's who I grew up learning from. And it was run and gun offense. It was, you know, press for 40 minutes and not let the team get the ball across half court. And you can't necessarily do that at this level. At least I don't with my teams. But it's just a very aggressive approach offensively, and that's what I grew up watching and learning and knowing how to teach best. So I would say I get that from her. And it's been fun to get back to that this year. You know, last year we had the limited bodies, and but if you look across the board at all the teams that I've ever coached, that's kind of been what we do and how we do it. So it's been fun, and my staff has done a great job at getting the right pieces for it, because you could have, you know, a game where you're shooting as much as we are, but if you're not making it, it feels different, right? So you got to get makers, not just takers. And we've got a lot of makers right now, so it looks and feels a lot better when you've got that.
In a lot of ways, that's the way that, you know, basketball in general has shifted stylistically. You know, a lot of outside shots, a lot of shooting. Why do you think, as someone who's always implemented that style, why do you think that it's becoming really more of a norm as time's going?
It's fun. It's fun. I mean, kids want to play it. You know, I think a few years ago you had Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the Splash Brothers. I mean, it's just like, who doesn't want to shoot? You know, who doesn't want to get up and down and play fast? And what fan doesn't enjoy watching it, right? So I think it's just kind of this perfect combination of all those things. And that's where you're just seeing it grow in popularity. Transition defense, I think, is one of the hardest things to do in basketball. So there's also that side of it. It's hard to guard, in my opinion. Where we're able to thrive in it right now is we've got really good post players. So I don't want to discount that. And shout out to Coach Lutz, because I've watched his practices, and he's been so good to me, and you know, been very open about how they do things. And he's taught me a lot about just how we can better incorporate our post players to open up the outside. And but you got to have good posts that can do that for you, right? And our posts have done a great job of running the floor and being that paint presence. And it's kind of made teams have to pick their poison on what they're going to guard. But I'm really grateful just for his mentorship in that, and he wouldn't even tell you that he's been a mentor, but I've just watched, and I appreciate the way he's taught it, and I've learned a lot from him.
Seeing her hit the milestone 600, what does that mean for you?
Say that again.
Seeing the milestones, I think you said 600. What,
Yeah.
What is that? What did that mean for you? Did you know that was coming, or
Yeah,
were you surprised when you saw it?
I learned about it just a couple weeks leading up to it, honestly, and my mom, I didn't learn it from her. I never would, because she's so humble. She's not about that. But it's incredible. I mean, and I say that because in a high school season, you know, for me, we always made it to state. We always played the max games that you could, and you're looking at a 26 game season. That's not very many to win 600. So just the amount of time that she's put into it, but most importantly, just the lives that I've seen her change throughout. That was the neatest thing for me. My sister put together a book for her, just reached out to former players and you know, people who have kind of been along that journey, and it was just amazing for me, and I was so proud as a daughter, as a player, and now as a coach, to see the impact that she's made. Truly a generational impact. I mean, it wasn't even really about the players that she coached. It's hearing how they teach their kids now the things that they learned from my mom, and the lessons and the work ethic, and, you know, the stories that are shared. And I think being a person who's about to bring my own baby girl into this world is like, that's who I want to be. You know, that's who I want to be for my players. That's who I want to be for my daughter. And so I can't even really put into words how special it is for me, and just seeing all of her hard work, because no one works harder than my mom. I mean, you know, high school coaches, they don't get paid anything, and they do everything, and she works just as hard now as she did those first couple years of my life, trying to prove herself. And that's one of the things that makes her so special.
Anything else? Thank you, guys.